Hello, you on the other side of the screen. Have you ever wondered how to get those pro drums? Well, today I'm gonna teach you, so stay tuned. So let's move into FL Studio, my boys. Let's go. Alright guys, so as you can see here, these are the drums for the track that I'm going to be showing you. Everything that it's in blue right here, part of the drums. These drums are a bit more complex, but you don't need to have these many layers to have something sound really good. Okay guys, so there are three main topics that I want to talk to you about. For me, there are the basic topics that will make your drums sound pro. The first one is rhythm, alright? You need to have that groove in your drums. Second one will be layering. It's also very important because you want to make them sound fuller. That's the only way you're going to be able to reach the professional level. And last but not least, and that's one of the most important actually, is mixing. Okay, so the first thing you need is the kick, one just like this one. The first thing I do is to lower the kick to about half its volume. To be more precise, I lower it to around 6 dB right here. Let's see how it sounds. Okay, it's touching the 6 dB line. I do this in advance so it gets easier to mix afterwards because you're going to need to balance everything out. And if you start off with a kick that it's around 0 dB, everything's going to be clipping and then it sort of becomes a mess. It's much harder to mix. And then when you move to the mastering phase, you're going to have every element so loud that you're not going to have any room to, pull things up and make them sound better. Okay, so moving on from the kick, then what I need to find is a good clap that goes well with the kick. Okay, so here I found this one. Oh, and by the way, guys, these drums aren't from a drop. They're part of a break. They're actually from a song that I'm releasing next week on Diego Miranda's label, Less is More Records, so stay tuned. Okay, so as I was saying, you need to find the clap that goes well with the kick, and this is what we have right now. As you can see, this clap is more of a snare clap, which is ideal for breaks. Okay, then one of the topics that I talked to you about was layering, and layering is not only important for leads, bass, instruments, but it's also very important for drums. But then if you add another clap or another snare clap just like this one, you see it's getting more humanized, it's getting more consistent. So then we add another, I think I added like this wood percussion. Okay, and this is all layering, guys. Okay, so then I added another sort of wood percussion. And regarding the rhythm, guys, see the difference this makes. Okay, so we have simple drums with just like two claps and a kick, and it sounds like this. Okay, it has some groove, but it's sort of simple. So then when we have the percussion, like the woodwinds or whatever it's called, this is what we get. Okay, and now we have that catchy rhythm that will make the whole in the song. All right, next off, what I added was, let me see. Okay, this is sort of a hi-hatty percussion. Then I layered it with a shaker, okay? And as you can see the contrast, the shaker is beating actually off beat, and it's adding even more groove. Okay, so let's see what we have now. Okay, then to finish it off, I added something that I think it's really important to make it sound more human. So I added loops, actually got some loops and chopped them off. And those are snare loops and hand clap loops. All right, these hand clap loops are pretty good. I think they're cashmere and they sound really human. Let's listen. Down with the snare loop. Okay, then we go with the percussion. Okay, then lastly guys, what I did was to add some stabs. I also love to layer my stabs. It gets a lot more punch. So let's see with both. Okay, then to even add more groove, I added some layers of toms, just like these ones. Together they sound like this. Okay, and it just goes like this. Also, don't forget to add contrast to your stabs. Don't always play them on the same note and with the same pattern. Just what I did here, it makes the difference. Right? First it plays like this, and then it goes like, okay? Simple things that make the difference. All right, to finish it off, these aren't part of the drums. I still am gonna show it to you because I like to add these voices and mix them together with the drums, but they're actually vocals and not drums. Okay, they're just simple hey sounds. Okay, they go like this. What is this one? This is a normal hey sound, but I pitched it down 12 semitones. It usually sounds like this, but I pitched it down like this, and then sounds like that. Okay. Then I just added a panning automation that will pretty much just automate both vocals and pan them both left and right throughout the song. As you can see, when I play it, the pan knob should move. And if you listen to this on headphones, you can notice the vocals going left to right. Okay, so the last tip I have for you guys is the placement of the samples. You don't need to actually place everything on the grid at the exact correct tempo. If you notice, for example, this crisp snare, it isn't actually hitting at the exact same time as the other snares and the other claps. And this happens just to mimicate the human behavior, because if you notice when the band is playing, it is impossible to play everything at the exact same time, right? The different elements of the band, for example, the person that's playing the piano or the drums or whatever, they won't be hitting the same note or whatever note they need to hit at that time. They won't be hitting it at the exact same time, right? There'll be like milliseconds of difference, and that creates that human feeling, like, because sometimes it just sounds better if everything isn't programmed to hit at the exact same time. Okay, so let's listen to how the final drums sound. Then if you're to add a bass, for example, let's see how it sounds with the bass. All right, so moving on to the mixing stage. Now that we got groove and layering out of the way, this would be the final stage for finalizing the drums. Okay, so I got quite a lot of channels here, but I'm only gonna go through the most important because most of them are only EQ'd. Some of them won't probably even have anything. Okay, so let's start with the kick from the break. And here, guys, I have two tips for you. Okay, so first of all, you should EQ your kick according to the genre, and that will depend on the way you want it to sound. For me, I didn't want to change anything about this kick in terms of EQ. Oh God, COVID. I didn't want to change anything about this kick in terms of EQ, but for example, if it were other genre like hardstyle or trap, and I wanted to give that more punchiness and maybe more low end, I would probably boost some frequencies between like 50 to 200 hertz. Okay, so I just got the really low end here. I do this to around 30 hertz just so it doesn't interfere at club speakers, because you can't really hear it. Okay, but you can feel it if you're at big PA systems. The first tip I have for you is regarding compression. All right, I think I learned this with Cura. He's a Portuguese producer and DJ, and at one of his master classes, he taught us that if you add a compressor to a kick, to a singular kick, and then you just cut 1 dB of threshold and then compensate it with 1 dB of makeup, it will hit harder, and it's really noticeable. I've tried this multiple times and then started to use it. Okay, so let's first hear the drums without the compressor and then with the compressor to see the difference. This is without. and then watch how I add it afterwards. Okay, if you listen to on headphones, once again, you can hear it, it's more in your face, and we're just cutting 1 dB and boosting it back up, okay? Then to make it even more in your face, the second tip I have is to use any plugin that can give or take away attack to any sample. And for this, I'm using Transpire. I know that FL Studio has a pretty good native plugin as well. I don't recall the name now, but Transpire is great for this. What it does is it boosts the attack of the kick. So let's see how it sounds without and with. Okay, let's isolate it so it's more noticeable. Okay, I'm gonna boost the attack so you can hear the difference. So this is how the kick sounds without any Transpire. Okay, and now watch how I add more and more of it. Okay, so as you can see, it gets so much more attacky. I'm gonna put this back to what it was. Okay, and if you don't really understand what it is to add attack, I'm not gonna get into too much detail about a kick as a sample, but if you observe one, the first thing here that we have is called a transient, and this is the attacky part of the kick. If I cut the tail of the kick out, you can listen that it's really attacky. And then it comes the low end, the tail, which is the boominess of it, all right? Okay, the first part is the attack. So pretty much Transpire is just boosting this attack on the kick, so it can sound more in your face, all right? Okay, and that's the mixing for the kick. Then the rest of it, for the snares and the claps, I usually just add some EQ to cut the low end and boost and cut some frequencies. Then once again, that's up to taste. Sometimes, most of the times, I will add high frequencies to the claps so they sound a bit more harsh and they're a bit more noticeable, but that obviously depends on the genre once again. Okay, for the snares, I pretty much just added some EQ to cut out some frequencies and boost some of the highs because that will make it sound a bit more crispy. Okay, so then again for the percussion, I just cut out and add some frequencies. This is just really up to taste, to be honest. Okay, last but not least for the loops, once again, I'm cutting out some low frequencies. And another tip for you guys here is to play with the panning, okay? What I like to do sometimes, and this really helps on drum mixing, is you shouldn't have every element hitting on the same spot in the room, okay? This happens in bands in general, or orchestral bands, because not everyone is sitting at the same chair, right? So you'll have, for example, violins on one side of the room, pianos on the other side, you'll have the drums on the back or on the front, vocalists will also be on the front. So you get what I'm saying, everyone will be sort of split through the room, so all the sounds are noticeable to the audience, okay? And we do the same thing here. The things you want to sound in the middle will be the kick. Usually you want like a mono kick that will sound right in the middle, so it will punch at any system, headphones, laptop speakers, whatever. Then the claps, you will have them also in the middle. You can pan them just a tiny little bit, but not much. And then everything else like shakers, hi-hats, you can play around. You can send them left, send them right. Obviously not a ton, but you know, there aren't any rules in music. So just experiment with it and see what sounds good, okay? And that's what I did with the shakers. I think I penned them a bit left and right, and that makes it sound a bit fuller, okay? Especially because all elements won't be competing with each other on the same spot inside a room, if you imagine it, okay? All right, then the stabs. What I did for the stabs, let's see. The stabs are a bit more complex. I'm taking out some low frequencies so they don't clash with the kick. Then I'm adding some distortion with a sausage fattener, some OTT to compress it and give it that extra boost. And then I'm just cutting a bit of the highs, probably because I thought it was messing up the drums as a whole. Okay, then I did pretty much the same for the other one, and let's listen without any effects how they sound. Okay, then we add effects. Okay, so for the percussion, it really wasn't important for me what I did in the mixing stage because they're actually hitting alone in the track. They're not hitting together with any element, especially not with the kick. So I just thought it sounded good like that. And then the vocals also aren't important because you shouldn't be adding them in the drum mixing stage. But I think what I did was just add some distortion with Sound Godizer, cut off low and high frequencies. And boost a bit of the mids so they can be a bit more noticeable. Okay, and that was it for the mixing pretty much. Another tip for you guys is don't mix channels individually. Okay, if you're mixing a snare or a percussion, whatever, just mix it while listening to the whole drums. Okay, because if you're gonna be equalizing, for example, something alone, you don't actually realize the difference it is making as a whole in the track. Okay, so that could go wrong, right? Okay, the one of the last two things I want to talk to you guys about is the volumes. That's one of the most important things in a mixing stage. What I usually do for this is I start with the kick at the -6 dB, and then what I do is I start at each element that follows up the kick and try to get the exact volume I want it so it sounds good in the track. So what I do is, for example, this clap, I just put the volume to a minimum and then I play the drums and start to add some volume back up and I stop when I think it's good. Okay, so let's try for this one. Okay, and I think it's good here. Okay, we don't want to have the snares or the claps higher than the kick because the kick is the main element of the track, especially for EDM genres. So you want it to be the thing that sounds the loudest. All right, then you do that for everything else. The other claps, the percussion, the hi-hats and whatnot. Really don't forget about the volume mixing because that will really have a good impact on how professional your music sounds. The last step, guys, is the drum bus. Okay, what I like to do is to send every element of the drums to a singular bus. At the final stage, what I did to the drums was add compression and just boost a bit of the highs, and I will show you the difference it makes. So let's listen to the drums as a whole. Okay, so let's do this example with the bass and the simple vocal so you can see the difference. Let's play it all without any effects. Okay, you can see how boomy it sounds without any effects, and then after adding the effects, it sounds a bit louder, a bit more compressed, a bit stronger than the high frequencies. It sort of just sounds brighter, okay? And that's what you want, especially for this genre. All right, that was it for the drums. If you guys want to listen to the full track, I'll make sure to leave the link in the description down below. So just go there and take a listen if you're interested. And that was it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell because she been naughty. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.